大家好, I will be presenting today on 追. First things first, let's take a look at its origins and its evolution. So, 追 means short-tailed bird. So we can first see here the Oracle Bone script 甲骨文. We see that it maps very well onto a picture of a short-tailed bird. You can see the head and you can see the body and the feathers. Next, we have bronze script, and we see it's a little bit more stylized. And then it gets stylized further in small seal script 小篆. And then finally, we have 楷书, which is the regular script. So here is an example of 甲骨文, and there in the red box is 追. And then here on the bronze tablet is 追 again. So you can also see 追 in modern day will have slightly different variations, such as semi-cursive script, 新书 and 草书 full cursive script. So in modern pictures or signage, you will see these often. This is an example of that. We have two signs in which 追 is shown. Here's one, and there's the other. Okay, let's talk about the meaning evolution. So the original meaning was short-tailed bird. And then the meaning extended to names of birds, and also words related to birds, such as jiao, and then extended further to aspects of birds, such as 熊, and then furthermore towards unrelated sound loans, characters which no longer have any relation to the original meaning. And these are most difficult to deal with, and we will get into them in this presentation. For example, 难 and gu. Okay, components appearance is important. So 追 will appear most commonly on the right side, for example in 难. But it can also appear on the top, such as in jiao, and also on the bottom, such as in 却. Okay, we're going to look at 追 as a meaning component in a few sets of characters. The first one is 却, the original meaning being sparrow. And so this meaning was extended to mean small bird and freckle. So let's see why it means that. First, we have 追, which of course means bird, and then 小, small. So small bird, sparrow, makes sense. And 小 is a character in 小时, meaning hour, and 小说, meaning novel. It's also in 尖, which means sharp. Why does it mean sharp? You have something small and then something big on the bottom. Big, small, it rises to a point, and the point at the top. That's why it means sharp. And then 孙 means grandson. It will appear in words such as 雀鸟, which means small bird, and 孔雀, peacock. 雀斑, freckles, and 雀跃, which means to jump for joy, to be overjoyed. 焦 is the next one. The original meaning being cooked bird. You have 追 on top and then 火, fire on bottom. Bird over fire, cooked bird. Makes sense. The extended meaning is to burn, to scorch, and also can mean anxious. Why? Because you have an inner burning sensation. So that makes sense there. So we have 追 and 火 as the meaning components. 火 meaning fire. And a few characters 火 also appears in. 热, hot. 燃, to burn, scorch. 煮, which is cook. And 烹, which is boil. And we have more words it appears in, such as 焦味, which is a burning smell. 焦固, which is something burning, scorched. And 焦土, scorched earth. Next we have 焦黑, burned black, and 焦糖, which means caramel. So if you know anything about caramel and how it's made, you know that it requires burning sugar and butter. And so that is why it is 焦糖. We also have 焦急, which means anxious, and 焦躁, restless. Next up we have 熊. The original meaning is a male bird. This meaning was extended to mean male or masculine, males of a species, as well as power and strength. So 追, obviously related to a male bird, the original meaning, and 公 is the sound component, which can also lend a sound of hong, and here it just lends a sound to the final of ong. It will appear in words such as hong da and hong wei, both meaning vast, expansive. And here are some words. We have xiong ji, which is rooster, and xiong shi, male lion. So we see the male of a species extended meaning here. Here we have xiong zhuan, which is a person of great power and influence, and xiong xin, which is ambition and aspiration. Lastly, we have英雄, which means superhero, such as Superman. So that is a fun one. Next up, nan. This is where it gets more difficult. Very ironic. The original meaning is a type of bird, but it has extended to mean difficult, trouble. How did that happen? Well, through sound loan. With nan, you had two words, one meaning a type of bird, one meaning difficult. And they both had the same pronunciation. So the character for this type of bird was used as loaned to the word for difficult, and since has lost its original meaning and no longer refers to that type of bird. So that is why 追, though it being the meaning component having to do with the original meaning, no longer has any relationship with the extended meaning and the modern Chinese meaning. And we have nan, which is the sound component, though it's not outwardly obvious why it is a sound component, but is more obvious when we look at the traditional nan. And we also have han and tan, and we start to see that through the simplification process, nan was simplified into this component that looks like yo, but has no relationship to it. Words that nan is in, such as 困难, which means difficult, and 难题, which means difficult problem. We also have 难过, sad, 难看, ugly, and 难吃, terrible tasting. Also, we have 故, which is similarly a sound loan, and so it has the same problem with the original meaning and the extended meaning no longer have any relationship. So while it originally meant a type of bird, it now means to hire, to employ, 雇. 追 is the meaning component, though it has no relationship to hire or employ, but 户 is a sound component, 户, 雇, very similar sounds. We see it in 保护, which means to safeguard, protect, preserve, and 户, which is actually the abbreviation for Shanghai. We see that here on the license plate, a Shanghai license plate, right there that the arrow points to. You see that. Words that 雇 is in, 雇佣 means to hire, to employ, 雇人 is employee, and 雇主 is employer. 雇工 to hire, and 解雇 which means to dismiss or to fire. All right, next up, let's talk about 追 as a sound component. So 追 can produce many of these sounds, but as you can see, there's a common relationship, which is the wei or wei sound, right? So we have ei or ui as the common ones. And it's actually phonetically the same sound. If you say it out loud, tui, wei, wei, right? It is phonetically the same. So don't let the spelling trip you up. First up, we have 谁. The original meaning is who, as in 他是谁. The extended meaning is someone. So very clear, close relationship there. 追 is the sound component here because it adds ei, the final. And then we have 言, which is actually a pictograph of a tongue, and it means speech. It has a pretty close relationship to the meaning of talking about someone or asking someone. So we have 听说, 说话. which means you heard something, or speech, and then 应该 means should, and 让, which is to let or to permit. 谁知 is a colloquial phrase that means who knows, and 谁人 is what person. Next we have 喂. The original meaning is the sound of someone replying. You will most commonly hear this being said when someone answers the phone. They will say 喂你好. The extended meaning is a grammatical phrase, means only, alone, or but. That is less common. So we have 追 lending the final ei, a, and then 口 is the mouth. It's a pictograph of the mouth, and that lends the meaning of someone replying. When you reply, you use your mouth. And so it appears in characters such as 问, which is asking a question, 叫 to call yourself, right? 我叫安小勇, and 吃饭, obviously use your mouth to eat. And of course it is in 喂你好. Next up we have 推. The original meaning was to push an object, and was extended to mean to push forward or to refuse or delay. And so we have 追 lending the ui final, and then 手 is hand. And of course, to push an object, you have to use your hand. And it also appears in characters such as 打 to hit, 找 to search, to find, 接 to receive, and finally 支持, which is to support, all of which requires using your hand. And now it will appear in words such as 推进, to advance, to promote, to push forward, 推行, to carry out, to pursue, 推光, to expand, 推选, to choose, to elect, and finally 推荐, to recommend. Lastly, we have 智. The original meaning was a grain seedling, but has since extended to mean immature, young, and childish. Why is that? Well, we have 追 as the sound component, which in this case provides the initial and not the final 智. And we also have 和, which is the meaning component, which means grain, Malay. It is actually a pictograph of a crop. So we have 和 here in 禾苗, which means seedling, and 禾草, which means grass. 和 is also a component in 和平 and 有利. 和平 means peace, and 有利 means beneficial or advantage. 智 will appear in words such as 稚气, which means young and immature, childish, and 稚初, which means naive. Now it's very important that you don't get these mixed up. Do not mix up 追 with 王 or 龟. They are very different. 王 means king, and 龟 means jade tablet. So, for example, 龟 is a common sound component in characters such as 挂, which means to hang, like 挂在墙上, hang on a wall, like hang a painting or something on a wall. It's also a component in 青蛙, which means frog. Okay, let us test your learning, see what you know. Let's take a look at 瞧, which means to look or see. Is 追 functional in 瞧? Think about it for a second. Is it functional? Does it provide meaning? Does it provide sound? Think about it for a second. All right. Maybe that helps a little bit. Few more seconds and then I'll provide the answer. All right, let's take a look at the answer. No, it is not. 追 is not a functional component in 瞧. And let's take a look at why. So here's 瞧. And let's take a look at the sound component, which is 焦, which we covered earlier, meaning burn, scorch, right? And we can quite clearly see the sound relationship, 焦 and 焦. So it shares the 腰, and it also shares sort of the initial. The meaning component is 目, eye, which is actually a pictograph of an eye, which you can see more clearly in this picture right here. And so use your eye to look or see. So Jui, does it have any relationship with Qiao, either in meaning or sound? No, no relationship. What it does have a relationship with is mu and jiao, because jiao is the sound component and mu is the meaning component. Jui has no function in qiao. So why is that? Well, whenever you have more than two components, the rule to know is that it's probably not functional. So you could potentially divide qiao into three components, mu, jui, and huo, but that would be wrong, because then you lose the functionality, because jui and huo have nothing to do with the sound of qiao. So there you have it. Thank you so much. Hopefully this was very helpful.